What's up guys, it's Shanna and welcome to another episode of the iherng podcast, and today we will answer a question from Instagram. This is from Fahim. Dear Sean, I wanted to reach out to get your thoughts on the viability of the Malaysian market for flipping, which means renovating up below market price houses that are abandoned, dated to modern standards for sale at market price. I'm tempted to get into flipping if it's a viable option, as it's an opportunity to make money, and I'm also quite passionate about interior design / remodeling. Would you say that there are good opportunities to make money from it in the Malaysian market? I'm a relatively fresh graduate, 24 years old, that's been working in a bank for 1.5 years. So there are opportunities to try it out, considering that I'm a bank staff and might benefit from slightly better interest rates and credit assessments. I currently live with my parents, so my monthly cost is low and I can spend a good amount on installments if needed. Could you advise me on whether it's feasible for someone as young as me? I don't know enough about loans, as I'm not in consumer banking, haha, to know if you can take a 20 to 25 years loan for a short-term home flip, for example 6 months from purchase to renovating to sale. Likewise, I'll be open to any ideas you have for someone like myself who wants to be quite aggressive on real estate. I'm more inclined to flipping than home investing for rental, as I see it having better returns if done right, and you're able to have more cash liquid than owning one home for 7 to 10 years time, hoping for the home to appreciate. Love your YouTube videos and keep up the great work. So, thank you very much for the DM, and for you guys who are listening, please do consider subscribing to the channel, because that will help me get more guests and projects in the future, so I get to show you guys more about the real estate channel. So if you really find value of what I've shared so far, do subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. And coming back to the question, this is a rather direct question, and I do get this kind of question a lot, especially from young people, because when you look into social media, most of the time it's always about the US market. So there are a lot of stories about how they buy an old property, redo it, then revalue, then take out the cash and they roll again and again. So the first question is such arrangement of work viable in Malaysia? Can it make money? Personally, it will only make sense if you're a ID designer or a contractor, or you're a person who is very experienced with construction, and it's actually your business. You will profit from the renovation works, because I seriously do not think that you will benefit much from the arrangement and you're getting all the risks. Okay, so let's just play a scenario on how it's going to work. Let's say most of the time you look at property flipping, abandoned kind of thing applies to landed properties, right? Individual title landed properties. A few things to address here. Market value. We kind of had a discussion about market value before. So one is a valuation report made by professional valuers saying how much the property is worth. So that's the official value of the property. The market value is how much the market is actually going to pay for that exact property. For example, if there's a terrace house that is around PJ, let's say it's worth 1 million, right? When you say worth, is it market value or is it the bank value? The difference here then will be, if an owner wants to sell 1 million, can the new buyer get loan based on 1 million? So if the bank values the property at 1 million, then he can take up 90% of the loan. So yes, that's a bank valuation. So that means the bank values the property at 1 million. But does that necessarily mean that the market price is 1 million? Not really. There are areas where the bank values 1 million, but no one in the market is going to buy that property at 1 million. Why? Because it may need a lot of repair works. Maybe there's some horror story with the property, or properties in bad locations, for example facing junction, facing sewage, next to TMB, a lot of reasons lah. Hence, the owner might need to sell the property way below the bank value. So that's the actual market value. And why I highlight this a lot is because when we go into auction market, this is often the confusion. Because what is more legit will be the past transaction price of the surrounding of that particular property. Let's say the neighbor of this particular unit sold for 1 million, then you roughly know the market price is around 1 million, and you can actually fetch the valuation in terms of the bank perspective, so the new buyer can actually get loan on the purchase, because there are scenarios where when these two don't match, let's say bank values at 1 million, but the owner wants to sell it at 1.5. Very difficult, because the new buyer can only take loan up to 1 million. So the rest of the amount needs to be coughed out in cash. So that limits up the customer or your target audience. Because who else walks around with so much money to dump into a property lah? So the other one, when it's market value way lower than bank, which means the owner is willing to sell at 800,000 but bank values the property at 1 million. This is then very, very interesting in your case. So you can actually buy the property at 800,000, but within the SPA, we can make arrangements to be at 1 million. Then you can say that the owner gives you discount whatsoever. This can be actually arranged, but provided you can qualify for the 1 million ringgit loan, then only this whole thing will work. So you can take up 90% out of 1 million. So you take out 900,000, you pay the owner 800,000, so you're left with 100,000 maybe for renovation or refurbishing the house. This portion is then your risk. Looking at your age, judging on your experience of house ownership, the entire home ownership process, you are very new to it, loan as well, along with everything else. The worst portion is, I'm just going to be blunt, do you even know how much a kitchen costs? How much does roofing cost? How much is a water tanki replacement? How much do you need to pay to get an auto gate fixed? Because all these are just going to eat up your margin. Imagine the same deal. You get 800,000, which is 20% below the market value already, and you have 10% up for cash, 100,000 to actually do up the house. The other dimension would then be time. How long do you do it? Across those months, you will need to pay the installment amount of a 900,000 loan, which is around 2,008 a month. Then if not managed properly, if you are inexperienced, not all contractors are that responsible. There are a lot of scary stories about renovation works being abandoned. Then in those scenarios, what happens, right? A lot of people just leave or abandon the job right after hacking. So you don't even have a nice property to begin with. Then, how experienced are you in design? Because this affects the confidence level on how sure are you that the next buyer is going to buy the property that you renovate or refurbish. Because the only reason why a buyer would want to buy a sub-sale property is for the location, but the main problem will be capital and the cost of renovation. So if the unit has somewhat like a good template, or it was refurbished 5 years ago by the owner, so it saves a lot of extension costs. For example, the kitchen extension, there's a new auto gate, master bedroom is extended all the way, no more balcony, now the master bedroom is awesome, all toilet pipings all redone. Even if the selling price is slightly higher than the market, so let's say the entire neighborhood is 1 million, this is selling for 1.1, there will still be buyers for this kind of product because they don't want to go through the entire hassle of renovation again. Because if not done properly, it's going to be a nightmare. Then there's also one big thing that you are missing out. It's called RBGT, Real Property Gain Tax. So there's a schedule or a table on how you calculate RBGT for Malaysia. It means that from the date of signing your SPA, let's say you buy in January and you sell in December, you kind of own it for a year, you need to pay a very, very high fee on your earnings. So let's say you buy at 800,000, let's say you do up a nice job, you sell at 1.1 million, right? But your SPA price is actually 1 million, so you earn here around 100,000, and let's put a ballpark figure, let's say maybe you are imposed 30%, right? On that 100,000, so 30,000 already go to tax. Then you're left with around 200,000 plus the 100,000 extra money that you got from the financing to play around. If anything done wrong, you will bear all the risk. So in order for this kind of arrangement to happen, there will be three very important aspects. Number one, the source of your stocks, which means where do you get properties of such where it's below market value, just sitting around the market where it doesn't get discovered, right? Because by nature, let's say if my neighbor is selling the house at 20 to 30% lower than the market price, right? Because they want to migrate here, they are just sick of Malaysia already, for example. Don't you think the neighborhood people will grab it first before you? Then is it from sub-sale, or is it from auction, or is it from bulk purchase? This needs to be sorted out first. The second thing will be the financing. Can you qualify for so many different loans? Because if you were to work at one property at a time, right, it's just very, very risky. Plus, you are not a renovation company to begin with. You have not much experience in designing or site management to begin with. Because a lot of people underestimate the amount of hours required to get a house beautiful. Because this is based on my experience with the makeover guys. A lot of people are sitting there, why is so difficult? Just move in some furniture, put on some curtains, some wallpaper, some lighting, aircon, rent it out lah. How difficult can it be, and why does it cost so much? until they do it themselves. Just by receiving deliveries in their new unit, just by speaking to different contractors, like maybe the cabinet people come first, then the ceiling people come, then the electrician comes, then this person comes. There are just a lot of different expertise coming together, and the amount of man hours are just insane. A lot of people underestimate that. And the third thing is about risk. So you are risking a lot for a reward that is like meh. So are there people doing such things? Yes, but they are generally the construction company, which is usually an ID design company as well, and that gives them certainty. So when they see an opportunity, it's like a canvas to them. Okay, this house at this existing condition, I will just do this up, 120,000 roughly based on the past 3 projects. This is the cost and what's the market value now. So we will roughly make 30 to 50% and they will build everything at cost price. So maybe that will add up a little bit. But if you're a third party hiring this expertise to build up your house and then you still expect to sell to a customer and make a margin after deducting tax, right? What if it doesn't, right? And if it does, you earn like that. So my recommendation, based on your profile, based on your experience level, based on your age, I would suggest you to go sell properties instead. So you will be learning for free. Maybe accident you can sell 1 or 2, you will make a lot of money and there's actually zero risk. Well, there are some costs of advertising, some branding, self-branding, card or social media costs or whatsoever. But the ratio of risk versus return is just too attractive. That's why there are a lot of real estate agents. The worry then will then be competition. And that will be my recommendation, because if you are not really passionate about how does the piping work in the kitchen, after coming up from the roads via the cold water pipe, how does it go? One goes to the tangki, one goes to the kitchen. Then how does it route? So if you're not passionate about all these kind of things, right? You know why they call them contractors? Because they con people a lot. Although this is a very generous statement and it's also a joke, right? It's also a joke where my Tan Sri used to tell me back then when I was younger. Because guess what? If the contractor is going to see you, a young chap, trying to engage them for renovation work, right? Let's face it. Plus you're living with your parents, so living expenses and commitments is really low. You have all to gain if you are actually selling properties. Because my greatest concern for your entire statement is property investment is too slow if it's for rental, if it's for yield. Let's not get confused, right? Property investment was supposed to be slow. So if you are thinking to make fast money, buy, sell, flip properties, right? That was done maybe 20-30 years ago. You don't see that a lot already because there are a lot of cooling measures being implemented by the local government. For example, they impose very high tax on earnings, so it wouldn't make sense to take so much risk in flipping properties anymore. Plus I need to pay tax, so generally there's no more gains, and they actually restrict people in getting 90% loans. So the first 2 properties you can only qualify for 90% loan, the third onwards you cannot. All those are imposed to control property flipping because it was the root cause of the property bubble back then. So if you're thinking about property flipping, you kind of missed the boat already. And it's actually very concerning for me to see such messages, especially from young audiences like you. Because most of the people come into real estate thinking that they will make them rich, they're going to make a lot of money just by signing on the dotted lines. It's actually a very long process, and I've mentioned this several times already. Real estate is not going to make you rich. Real estate actually keeps you rich. So if money is your main priority, may I suggest you to go and sell properties, earn a commission, which is way faster. There are so many agents that make 6 figures a month. Then try to set up a business. And if you want to do day trade, may I suggest stocks or crypto instead? Because the difficulty of this execution is just going to be so much higher in terms of real estate. Just to get ownership of a particular property is going to take you maybe like 5 to 6 months already. This is provided I want to book today, I will own the property maybe in like 4 or 5 months time. It's a very slow process, and that's why I love it. So for some that has followed the channel a little bit, they may think that this is a very naive question, but I appreciate it, right? Because I really want to manage the expectation of young people coming into this property investment realm. If you want to make fast money, wrong place, bro. And with that, I guess that's all for this episode. Thank you again for DMing, and for those who still have any real estate questions, you can always email me at TANIHERNG TANIHERNG@gmail.com, or you can just DM me. Again, please do subscribe the channel if you find value in this, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.